Hello, good morning everyone. Today, most important content for you. Please give up just one step. The problem isn't how far you are from success. It's how blind you are to how close you've already come. You think you're behind. You look around and everyone seems ahead. Achieving, building, glowing, rising. And somehow you're still stuck, still doubting, still waiting for something to shift. But let me tell you something that no one ever told me early enough. You are not as far as you think. You're not lost, you're just exhausted. You're not failing. You're just standing still because you've been carrying a mountain of pressure, rejection, self-doubt, and expectations for far too long. You've told yourself 100 times that it's too late, that you missed your moment, that maybe you weren't meant for greatness. But here's the truth. The fact that you're still here, still breathing, still searching for light in the dark, means you're already winning. You've made it through days that would have broken someone else. You've shown up empty and still tried to pour. You've clapped for others while your own hands were shaking. And that kind of silent resilience, that's the real work. That's the quiet progress no one sees, but it counts more than you know. Because success doesn't come in fireworks. It comes in steps. Quiet steps, lonely steps, late night steps. The ones where you chose not to quit when it would have been so easy to. You think the step you take tomorrow is what defines you, but it's the one you took yesterday with tears in your eyes and heaviness in your heart that already did. You didn't come this far just to come this far. And even if no one clapped for your survival, it still happened. You're not at the bottom anymore. You're just on a part of the climb that feels steep because the peak is close. That resistance you feel, that restlessness, that's not failure, that's proximity. That's your body and soul telling you, we're almost there. Don't stop now. And I know you're tired. God, I know. But being tired doesn't mean you're finished. Being scared doesn't mean you're incapable. And being delayed doesn't mean you're denied. You have more in you. And no, I'm not talking about fake positivity or hustle culture. I'm talking about the quiet, dangerous, breathtaking fire that survived every storm life threw at you. The fire that made you get back up without applause. The fire that made you believe in yourself again when the world stopped watching. That fire, it's still burning. And it's waiting for just one thing. One more step. Not a leap, not a sprint. Just a step. Toward your peace, toward your power, toward your truth. And when you take it, even if you're scared, even if you're unsure, you'll realize something you should have known all along. You were never behind. You were just building strength for the path that's coming. And it's coming, ready or not. It doesn't look like a prison. That's why you never notice you're stuck. Comfort is seductive. It whispers to you like a friend, tells you you're fine where you are, convinces you that peace is in stillness. But what it's really doing is paralyzing you slowly, beautifully. And the worst part, you don't even realize it. Because comfort wears a disguise. It looks like safety, sounds like logic, and feels like home. But underneath it is stagnation. The job you hate but won't leave. The dream you shelved because risk looked scary. The version of you that's smaller than who you were meant to be, but easier to carry. That's comfort. And if you stay there too long, it doesn't just keep you from success. It kills your hunger for it. It softens your edge. It silences the voice that once said, "Oh, maybe I can." And you think you're choosing peace, but really, you're choosing fear wrapped in routine. You're letting comfort protect you from the pain of failing, but also from the thrill of flying. You weren't born to shrink. You weren't born to repeat the same safe day for the rest of your life. You were born to evolve, to chase, to fail, to rebuild. And that can't happen if you stay in the corner when nothing changes. Comfort feels good, but growth feels better. And yes, stepping into the unknown feels like chaos at first. But that chaos is life rearranging itself to make room for your next level. You're meant to outgrow things, outgrow habits, outgrow people, outgrow the identity that made you feel safe but now makes you feel small. And here's the part most people won't tell you. You're going to have to walk away from a lot of almost to get to your absolutely. Almost successful, almost ready, almost happy. Don't settle for almost. You are not a tree. You are not rooted in one place forever. You can move. You can change. You can evolve. But only if you stop mistaking comfort for peace. Because real peace, the kind that fills your chest and not just your calendar, doesn't come from staying where you are. It comes from finally stepping into where you're meant to be. And that only happens when you leave the beautiful trap behind. It's not a reason, it's an excuse that learned how to sound intelligent. Every time you pull back, every time you pull back, every time you whisper to yourself, not now, maybe later, it feels like logic. It sounds smart, safe, reasonable. But what if I told you that the thing you keep calling a reason is really just an excuse in disguise? A story you've repeated so many times it's turned into truth. You say you're waiting for the right time, but deep down you're hoping the universe makes the decision for you, so you don't have to risk failing. You say you're not ready, but how would you even know what a ready looks like when you've never let yourself begin? You say you don't have enough support, but you haven't even backed yourself yet. You've convinced yourself that your pain is your prison. But what if it's actually your fuel? You're not broken, you're scared, and it's okay. But fear doesn't get to wear the mask of reason anymore. It doesn't get to be the voice that keeps you small. It doesn't get to call itself protection when it's really just procrastination wearing perfume. Everyone has reasons, everyone has wounds, but the only people who rise are the ones who stop blaming the past for what they refuse to change today. And I get it. Your excuse feels real. Your time really has been rough. You really did get left behind. They really did hurt you. But here's what I know, what I've lived, what I've learned. You can carry the weight of your pain, or you can use it to push forward, but you can't do both. Every excuse has a voice, and it's usually dressed up as your inner critic. The one that says, you're not smart enough, you're not talented enough, it's too late. People like you don't get that kind of life. But let me ask you something. Who taught you? Who told you that you weren't allowed to dream big, to go far, to take space, to shine loudly? That wasn't your soul talking. That was survival. And survival helped you get here. Yes, but success requires something else. Responsibility. And that means owning what's holding you back, even if it's you. Especially if it's you. You say your job is the reason you can't start. You say your family won't understand. You say you don't have the time, the energy, the money. But the truth is, you have the same 24 hours as the people you admire. The difference is, they stopped letting fear pretend to be reason. They got tired of their own excuses and decided to trade them for movement. You can too. Your next chapter doesn't require perfect conditions. It requires honesty. Brutal, uncomfortable, breathtaking honesty. The kind that says, yes, I've been waiting too long. Yes, I've been hiding behind reasons. But not anymore. Because the moment you stop feeding the excuse, it dies. The moment you call it out for what it is, you get your power back. And maybe you don't have all the answers yet, but you do have the ability to try. And trying with truth is worth more than standing still with a lie. So what's the excuse you keep calling a reason? Be real. Name it. Face it. And then take the damn step anyway. That heaviness you feel isn't failure. It's the weight of almost arriving. You think you're done. You think you've hit your limit. You're tired in your bones, in your chest, in your soul. You look at your life and say, I don't know if I can keep going like this. But listen to me. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're close. You're tired because you've been pushing silently, without applause, without results. And your spirit is begging you to hold on just a little longer. This exhaustion you feel, it's not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're on the edge of your breakthrough. You're at the part of the story where most people quit. The part that feels the hardest. The part where the temptation to settle becomes louder than the dream you once held in your heart. But this is where it happens. This is the moment. Right here when no one's cheering, when no one believes, when everything inside you is screaming for relief. This is the chapter where legends are born, not during the easy wins, not during the spotlight, but in the sweat, in the silence, in the struggle. And I know it hurts. I know you're wondering why it's taking so long, why it's always you carrying the weight, why you keep getting knocked down. But every time you stood back up, every single time, you were getting closer. Progress doesn't always look like winning. Sometimes it looks like crying and still showing up. It looks like failing and still believing. It looks like barely holding it together, but refusing to let go. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to not quit here, because most people do. Most people give up right before the magic happens. They walk away when the pain gets loud. But not you. You didn't survive everything just to stop. You didn't crawl through the darkness just to let it win now. You didn't rebuild yourself after every heartbreak just to let this moment defeat you. You are tired because you've been moving, growing, stretching, becoming. And that process, it's brutal, but it's sacred. Because while the world sees nothing yet, your transformation is already happening. Your future is already being shaped. Every scar you carry, it's preparing you. Every no you heard, it's refining you. Every tear you shed in silence, it's watering the version of you who is about to rise. This is not your breaking point. This is your building point. This pain is temporary, but what's coming will last. You don't see it yet, but your name is being written into stories you haven't even dreamed of. Your effort is echoing in rooms you haven't entered yet. Your energy is creating doors where there used to be walls. And when you get there, when you finally arrive, you will look back and realize that the tired version of you, the broken version of you, was the strongest one of all. So breathe, cry if you need to, rest but don't retreat. You've already walked through fire. Don't stop in the smoke. Keep going, crawl if you must. But move, because you're not at the end. You're at the edge. And what's waiting for you on the other side? It's bigger than you imagined. But first, you have to survive this part, and you will. Because you always do. Oh, fear doesn't protect you. It just whispers lies with perfect timing. Fear is clever. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just sits beside you quietly, pretending to care. Sounds like reason. It sounds like caution. But make no mistake, fear's real talent isn't in keeping you safe. It's in keeping you small. It whispers in your head when you're about to try. What if you fail? It leans in closer when you're about to speak. What if they laugh? It tightens its grip when you're about to leap. What if you fall? And you listen, not because you're weak, but because fear has practiced sounding like the truth. And the longer you sit with it, the more it becomes part of your story. You call it intuition. You call it being realistic. But deep down, you know, it's just fear dressed up like wisdom. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Most of the things you're afraid of are made up. Rejection? You've faced it before and lived. Failure? You've stumbled before and got back up stronger. Judgment? You already judge yourself harder than the world ever could. But fear isn't built on reality. It's built on memory. It reminds you of the last time things hurt. It replays the heartbreak, the loss, the embarrassment, over and over, until you start believing that if it happened once, it will happen again. But that's a lie. You are not the same person. You are not standing in the same place. You've healed. You've learned. You've earned the right to take new risks without old ghosts deciding your limits. Fear wants you to forget that you've already survived your worst days, that you've already walked through fire and came out breathing, that the voice in your head telling you you can't is actually terrified that you will. Fear has one job, to stop your momentum, but your job is bigger, to keep moving anyway. Fear is loudest when you're about to grow. Have you noticed that? The closer you get to something real, something powerful, something that could actually change your life, the more fear screams, because it knows you're waking up, it knows you're beginning to believe, and belief that's deadly to fear. Because once you stop believing in yourself, really believing, fear loses its grip. It becomes background noise, and you start to hear a different voice, the voice that says, yes, you might fall, but what if you fly? The voice that says, you've done harder things. The voice that says, I'll let them doubt you. Just don't doubt yourself. That voice, that's the real you. That's the voice you were born with before the world told you to shrink, before life taught you fear. And that voice is still in there, buried under the noise, but burning to be heard. So when fear shows up again, and it will, don't try to silence it. Don't try to outrun it. Just look it dead in the eye and say, I hear you, but I'm not listening this time. Because you're not here to play small. You're not here to hide behind comfort. You're here to build, to rise, to live out the version of you that fear never wanted to meet. So let fear be afraid. Let it tremble. Let it scream. But whatever you do, don't you dare stop. You've come too far. And the only thing more dangerous than fear is what happens if you keep letting it lead. Or perfection isn't the goal. Movement is, and courage is the price of movement. Stop waiting for perfect. Stop stalling your destiny because the lighting isn't right. The timing feels off. The plan isn't flawless. Or you think you don't know enough yet. That version of perfect you're waiting for. It doesn't exist. It's a delay tactic fear gave you. Because perfection is the most beautiful lie fear ever told. And you believed it. You told yourself, I'll start when I'm ready. And that sounded noble, responsible, even smart. But the truth is, ready is a myth. And perfection is the excuse keeping you from progress. Because here's what they won't say out loud. The most successful people in the world didn't begin when they were ready. They began when they were brave. They stepped in with shaking hands, with doubts screaming in their ears, with nothing figured out. But they stepped anyway. That's courage. That's how it's always been done. You don't need perfect. You need courage to look stupid, to fall down, to try in front of people who might not clap for you. You need the guts to build in silence, to believe without proof, to move without knowing how it will end. Because real power isn't in perfection. It's in the person who shows up anyway. While the world is obsessed with appearances, with filters and curated success stories, the real ones are out here making mistakes, learning in public, failing forward, and refusing to quit. You want to wait until it's perfect. You'll wait forever. You'll stay stuck in the cycle of almost starting and never finishing. But if you choose courage over perfection, everything changes. Because courage is messy. Courage is uncomfortable. But courage's momentum beats perfection every time. Courage says, I might not have all the answers, but I'll start with what I've got. Courage says, they might laugh, but I'll keep going. Courage says, this might be hard, but I've survived worse. You weren't born to be flawless. You were born to be fearless. And that doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you don't let fear run the show. The world needs your voice, your work, your story. Not your polished version, but your present, breathing, brave self. So stop editing yourself out of your own life. The rough drafts, the messy middle, the awkward starts. That's where the magic is. The person you become while building. That's who you've been chasing all along. You don't become unstoppable by waiting for perfect. You become unstoppable the moment you stop waiting at all. Let them think it's too soon. Let them doubt your timing. Let them roll their eyes while they're waiting for green lights. You're building your legacy at red ones. While they're watching, you're moving. While they're hesitating, you're becoming. That's the difference. That's courage. And that's what separates dreamers from doers. So tear up the plan if you must. Show up scared. Show up unsure. Show up unfinished. But show up. Because courage is the bridge between who you are and who you're meant to be. And it starts the moment you decide perfect can wait. I'm doing it anyway. One step can't take you everywhere, but it can take you out of where you've been stuck your whole life. There's a moment in every story where everything shifts, and it never looks like fireworks or applause. It looks like one step. A step no one claps for. A step no one sees. A step that feels small, unworthy, even invisible, but turns out to be the step that changes everything. And you standing here, thinking, doubting, hesitating, are one decision away from that moment. Maybe it's the day you finally stop running from your own potential. Maybe it's the morning you decide to stop asking for permission and start writing your name on your own future. Or maybe it's this very second when something in you wakes up and says, I'm not waiting anymore, because this is it. This is the point where you stop spinning in circles of almost and someday. This is where you stop telling yourself a now is not the right time. This is where the next version of you begins, not tomorrow, not when you feel brave, not when everything's lined up, but right now, when it's messy, when it's terrifying, when it's raw. Because that's how every revolution starts, in discomfort, in fear, in silence. The step right here. This is your revolution, not the finish line, the ignition. The step where you go from dreamer to doer, from waiting to building, from watching to leading. You've been talking about changing your life. Now you're standing in front of the moment that will. And the voice in your head might still be loud. It might be saying, what if this isn't enough? What if I fail again? What if I'm not ready? But that voice has lied before. It told you to play small. It told you to shrink to fit into places you'd already outgrown. And you listened, didn't you? For too long, you waited for the perfect plan, the perfect day, the perfect version of yourself. But none of those ever came, because they were never meant to. What was meant to come was courage. And courage doesn't show up loud. It doesn't arrive with clarity. It walks in quietly in the middle of fear and says, let's do it anyway. That's where change begins. Not when you feel ready, but when you feel something rise inside you that refuses to stay stuck. That's the step, the one where you leave behind the weight of what broke you. The one where you stop apologizing for your ambition. The one where you stop asking if you're enough and start acting like you always were. This step is small, but it holds the power to rewrite your whole story. Because it's not just a step forward, it's a step out. Out of cycles, out of fear, out of patterns that stole your power and silenced your voice. You don't need to leap. You don't need to know the end. You just need to move. 1 inch, 1 breath, 1 action. And from there, everything shifts. The doors you couldn't open start unlocking. The people you thought were ahead of you start watching you rise. The limits you believed in, they break. Not because they were never real, but because you stopped believing in them. All because of this step, so don't underestimate it. Don't wait for another sign. This is the sign, this moment. This pull in your chest, this fire in your gut. This line between what was and what could be. Cross it, step, move. Because everything you want, the life, the legacy, the version of you you've only seen in flashes, it doesn't start with a miracle. It starts with a single, defiant step that says, I'm done waiting, I'm ready now. Not ready because everything's perfect, but ready because you finally realize that you don't need perfect to begin. You just need to begin. And this is the step that changes everything. This isn't the end. This is the proof that you are never made to quit. You've come too far to stop now. Every scar, every fall, every silent night where you thought about giving up, they weren't signs of weakness, they were proof of your fire. And if no one ever told you this before, let it echo in your soul right now. You were built to finish this. Not halfway, not almost, not a maybe someday. Finish. That dream, that version of you that lives just past this pain, just past this stretch of tire, just past this battle. She's waiting. And she's proud. Because you didn't fold. You didn't vanish when it got heavy. You showed up, day after day. Beat up maybe, but never broken. And while the world loves to cheer for winners, what they don't see is what it costs to become. They don't see the quiet mornings when you push through anxiety. The nights you cried wiped your face and kept building. They don't see how hard it is to carry a dream no one else believes in. But you carried it anyway, and that is power, not just in starting but in enduring. In surviving what was meant to break you. In showing life that you won't leave the story unfinished. This is the part most people quit. The middle, the hard part, the almost there where everything hurts and nothing feels enough. But you're not most people. You've already done the impossible, you stayed. You chose growth when comfort begged you to quit. You chose vision when fear told you to settle. You chose you. And that's why this chapter ends different. Not with doubt, not with excuses, but with clarity. You are never meant to give up. Your pace doesn't matter. Your mistakes don't matter. The time it's taken you doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that you're still here, still trying, still building, still becoming. And that is exactly what finishing looks like. It's not a finish line you cross. It's a fire you carry until the end. So carry it. Even if your hands shake, even if your legs ache, even if your heart is tired, carry it because you were born for this. Every failure prepared you. Every delay trained you, every lonely night shaped you. You're not behind, you're not late. You're exactly on time. Because this moment right here, this is the part where you prove to yourself that you've got everything it takes to finish strong. And when you do, when you look back, you won't just see the pain, you'll see the power, the evolution, the rise. And you'll finally understand why it had to be this hard. Because easy stories don't make warriors. And you were built to finish this.